Out of every 100 teachers in Davidson County, 62 are chronically absent from the classroom. According to the most recent Department of Education records from 2014 that just came out to the public. That means those teachers miss more than 2 full weeks of the school year. Not summer, not spring break, not even winter break. During the school year. More than 2 weeks. And it's not just Davidson County. Guilford County schools had 52% of teachers be chronically absent. Asheboro City schools, 50%. Rockingham County schools, 43%. All above the state average of 34% and the national average of 27%.
That is really an appalling statistic.
North Carolina Senate Majority Whip Jerry Tillman worked in education for 40 years. Over the decades, he says he only took 2 sick days.
We went to work.
So the idea of a teacher taking off more than 10 days, well...
Some of them are truly sick, and you certainly sympathize and you certainly understand, and that's that. But many times the substitute is not that familiar with the subject matter, and you do a lot of busy work.
A Davidson County school spokesperson sent this email saying since that government data was collected, their teacher and support staff absences have fallen to 43%. In part because those who miss more than 10 days now have to submit documentation related to the absences. And Guilford County emailed that some of the absences were for professional learning. And the number may be higher than reality because the attendance tracking systems are more than 20 years old and are pretty limited. But they wrote, "We clearly have a teacher attendance problem that is deeply concerning, and teacher morale and pay are big issues, not just in GCS, but across the state and nationally." Mark Jules seconds that. He's the president of the North Carolina Association of Educators and says there's a lot of reasons teachers miss.
Germs, the flu epidemic, of course, goes around. Pressure from large class sizes, from heavy materials, from responsibilities of working very late in the evenings and sometimes many weekends.
A lot of parents are going to see this and say, teachers get summer off, they get all the holidays off. How are they missing more than 10 days of school too?
And having the summer months off is really a false illusion because many of our teachers have to do second jobs during those summer months, and they also must prepare for their students.
Research shows when teachers miss this much school, it leads to lower student math scores on standardized tests, and by missing scheduled team planning meetings, they can have a negative impact even on the students of their colleagues. Senator Tillman wants to stop that from happening. He says school administrators in the state should do a better job of recognizing the teachers who do show up every day. So he's pushing to start a bonus program for perfect attendance.
I think if there's $1,000 on the line, I wouldn't be sick.
A solution that hopefully clicks with teachers to keep them in school for our kids. Love it or hate it, building a wall between the U.S. and Mexico is going to cost a staggering amount of money. The latest estimates place that anywhere between 15 to 25 billion bucks. That's so much money that if you took each dollar bill and laid it end to end, it wouldn't only stretch across the border, it would go all the way around the world, 97 times.
Scenes like this have been around for decades in the Carolinas. Shagging is as North Carolina as barbecue and cheerwine, but if you think it's a dying art, think again.
It's indescribable. It's such a loving community.
Kayla Henley has been shagging since she was 8. Her parents would practice at home and, well, that's all it took.
I pretended to be asleep and I stayed awake, and I heard music playing and I was like, okay, Mama's gone, let me go see what's going on. They're in the kitchen dancing, and I was watching and I go, I could do this too, so I popped out the corner.
Her lessons went on for years and her skills grew. Just like hundreds of other North Carolina and South Carolina kids, she went to Junior SOS, a convention of young shaggers held in North Myrtle Beach every summer.
And so I'm like, wow, other people my age do this too. And I was 9, 10 when I went to my first one. So now I'm 20, so I've been doing this for 10, 11 years. So much fun. Shag just feels like a big family, which is exactly what it feels like when I come. I feel like I'm just hanging out with all my brothers and sisters.
One of those brothers is this guy, Jackson Batten.
I didn't really get interested to it when I was about 12, when I realized that I like girls. And so from there, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Don't let him fool you. Jackson has been doing it for years and is the reigning national shag champion.
It's more of a family-centered dance. And I say that because my grandmother is a Hall of Famer, and my mother especially is one of the juniors. Growing up, I've always been around this world, and my grandmother brought me to my first junior SOS when I was 8 years old.
But his shag career would grow to amazing heights, dancing to music more than 3 times his age. 60-year-old music that his grandmother would reminisce about.
I danced with Milton to that in 19-something, and I said, Nanny, I danced to that last weekend. And so it's really, you form these common bonds with people over just music, and I love it. It's how we stay together as a family. It's a really, really loving part of what we do.
On the night we visited, both Kayla and Jackson won a regional shag competition, and the family watched in amazement. One generation to another. This dance goes on.
Shag's something I can do socially for the rest of my life, which is what I love so much about it.
One of the hottest gifts this year needs a steaming pot of coffee to be tested out. We filled up the 20-ounce Yeti and the cheaper 20-ounce Ozark and set both tumblers outside in the cold, sticking in thermometers to check the temperature every 30 minutes. The two brands cooled off at basically the same speed, with Yeti barely edging out Ozark. By 3.5 hours, Yeti had only lost 47 degrees, compared to the 48 degrees lost by Ozark. But both were still about 115 degrees hot, enough to burn your mouth. So let's try this 2 test from a different angle. On the roof, let's find out how durable these things are by throwing them down there to the concrete. Heads up! The Yeti is unusable, with the lid busted apart. The Ozark still standing. So let's try again. Still! Okay, this is fun. One more time. The Ozark has a few minor dents, but the Yeti has lost its lid and its shape, proving why more expensive isn't always my cup of tea.
It's easy to say, okay, they're drug addicts. Who cares? Let them do whatever they want to do. But these addicts, and also the recovering addicts, are living in your neighborhood. They're the moms and the dads of the kids that your children go to school with. They're the person who happens to be stopped right next to you at the stoplight. So you don't want them to just be addicts. You want them to be recovering, not using. Before the sun comes up, Brandy's on a bus, and the only light is her phone as she's texting her kids to get ready for school.
If I could fight to find the drug, I can fight to have sobriety.
You see, Brandy is a recovering heroin addict, and every 2 weeks she travels to get her methadone treatments. 1 liquid dose at the treatment center, and then a liquid dose for every day she's away.
You just don't start overnight being an addict, so you can't just get clean overnight.
Brandy's been at it for a while. In fact, we talked with her 2 years ago, and she told us how she would get high and then drive the kids to school.
I would get high, but I still function. I still took my kids to school, cooked supper.
2 years later,
it kills me to know that I did that to my family, that I put them through so much hell.
She's marking another anniversary of being clean.
If I'm not clean, then how am I going to be a great mama? How can I be a better mama?
Brandy is clean with the help of the methadone doses. It's an opioid medication that reduces the withdrawal symptoms, doesn't cause a high, and allows recovering addicts to function. And there are a lot of recovering addicts out there. In 1996, the National Drug Intelligence Center recorded 1,683 people in the state were being treated for heroin. In 2016, just this one Guilford County Treatment Center treats 1,000 people. Les is one of those counselors.
Folks that are doing well in treatment are very, very high functioning. These are individuals that have managed to, work with their illness, receive the treatment that they need at a level that is not going to be visible to other folks.
The treatment, including the methadone doses, can go on for years, for decades, a lifetime. Brandy knows she could be on methadone the rest of her life.
I wake up, I'll go ahead and take my medicine.
When Brandy isn't at the treatment center, she's taking her doses at home, and the routine is worth it.
And I'm done, so I'm ready to start my day for my kids.
The morning, pretty ordinary.
And I love it. I'm a mom again. I can get them ready myself.
even for a functioning, recovering heroin addict.
I'm so proud of myself to wake up every day. Even if it is on a methadone treatment, I'm here. I'm alive.